Hello everyone, this is Andrew, and as you likely saw from the opening cinematic, this is a furnace array. Now it has 5,184 furnaces in total, which means it is able to smelt up to 1.87 million items per hour at full speed. But it is divided into 4 cores of 1,296 furnaces each, so you can operate less furnaces at a time if you wish. It is also pretty lag friendly though. I was able to run one core at 8 milliseconds per tick, two at 15, and all four cores at 32 milliseconds per tick single player on a MacBook Pro. This means that even if you were to run all four cores at the same time, the server will likely be able to run at the normal 20 ticks per second without slowing down due to lag, especially considering that this was performance in an integrated server. Let's talk about the interface of this furnace array. And I'm right now in the nether, and that's because while the actual furnaces are in the overworld, the control panel is entirely in the nether. What this means is that the player doesn't have to load any furnaces in order to use them. Like, on their client at least. One of the major complaints I got was my prior 4032 furnace array at the Mechanists Technical Server was that with so many furnaces loaded, people just weren't able to play at all. Like, they got kicked from the server due to packet spam. By having the player stay away from the furnaces itself, it reduces the chances of things becoming broken, as there's always those mobs like phantoms and bats that can interfere with certain components such as tripwire and moving carts. Without a player being present nearby, they can't spawn, so by having them in a separate dimension, it reduces the chances of things breaking. Furthermore, as the furnace array is divided into 4 cores of 1,296 furnaces, depending on which core is selected, the 4 different chunk loaders at the top will make sure that only the cores that are being used are being loaded by the game. This reduces the lag overall when the furnaces are not being used since they're not loaded in the first place. The interface of the control panel is pretty intuitive, I'd say. In order to smelt, all the player has to do is input boxes into this chest here. Oops, right here. Flick the levers to tell it what furnace cores to use, and press the smelt button. Now, the boxes in the input chest will stay in the input chest actually, and that's because the hopper below here is locked until the furnace smelt button is pressed. In case a player inputs something wrong in here, you don't want it to be sucked up right away and sent to the furnaces where it could get stuck. Once the button is pressed, everything else is done automatically. The chunk loaders at the top make sure that the furnaces can do their thing without the player being present, but you do need to wait up to 15 seconds to allow the chunk loaders to start. During that time, the indicator lights will turn on and inform the player which modules are being used to smelt their items. Each of the lamps in these 3x3 lamp grids correspond to a specific module in a core. So this is in numerical order from left to right, top to bottom. So this is module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of core 1, and then core 2, core 3, and core 4. It's also the same in terms of layout. So if I come over here at the top, this is core 1, core 2, core 3, and core 4. The indicator panel in the middle, though, it keeps track of the cores that were activated each run. So as you can see, these 4 lamps are on in a diagonal pattern, which indicates that I've tested through all of these cores when setting up this world download. So how does this all work? Let's start with an overview of the nether side. First, the boxes inputted by the player are sucked by a hopper that is below the input chest, and it's sent through a shulker box filter, firstly, where it makes sure that the items are all shulker boxes, and if they're not, then it'll be outputted directly to the output chest for the player to pick up later. Again, here's the shulker box filter. The boxes then move on to the group distributor right here, and that will basically group the input in batches of 9 boxes and send each batch to a different core if multiple cores are selected, or to the same core if only one is selected. This makes sure that if you put in lots of boxes and select multiple cores, it's evenly distributed among the cores, the workload, so that it finishes as fast as possible. Afterwards, they go through a dropper elevator right here and move on to the box transporter. And this box transporter will align the boxes and shoots them through the portal to the overworld side. Let's create a no clip itself. And here at the overworld side, it's pretty much the same story in terms of the box transporter. The output boxes are sent back into the nether using the exact same mechanism with the same portal, just on a different side. And once the input boxes come across, they are brought into these dropper lines, and these dropper lines will transport them into the furnace modules. But first, it has to go through this box distributor, and this box distribution system is pretty neat in the sense that it's reliable and it's dustless. It was pretty hard getting this dustless in the past because these distribution systems often need to have some delay to reset and like after all these are done. And it's also pretty cool in the fact that you can disable individual modules. So if this redstone block is here, then this module will be disabled and it'll just skip over this. It won't break. This is also used to protect it against overflow. If there's overflow in the modules, then it will activate this lock and the boxes will start piling up here, which activates this overflow indicator, which will send to the control panel that the core is full and not to send any more boxes until it is emptied again. It's the same story for the fuel, except in the opposite way. If this has no more fuel in it, it will request more fuel from the control panel until this is on again. Now, these dropper lines some of these dropper lines are instant. You can see the input dropper line is instant because we want the boxes to be processed as fast as possible. But the other lines, such as the fuel dropper line, aren't really that important to be fast, so I just used regular rail dropper lines here. The dropper elevators, though, are all instant, and they use a nice trick in 1.16, which is that vertical walls will propagate their updates from the top to the bottom, and this allows me to send items through this instantaneously quite nicely, like that. It's a different story for the vertical instant line. This dropper elevator uses vertical instant wire technology that I showcased in a previous video, but it's pretty much a similar concept where you update the droppers instantaneously in a certain order so that the item goes across instantaneously, like so. One of the more important parts of this design is the data transporter. And this data transporter is a 12-bit data transporter, and it uses item momentum as a way of transferring the bits. If you have different items to transfer different bits, then you'll have to use sorters on the other side, but I don't want to use sorters, so I went ahead and used item momentum, which works by basically throwing the item at different speeds at this portal, which lands at different positions on the other side. Now this is used to tell the control panel which modules are activated, so 9 bits are used for each of the 9 module status indicators, and 1 bit is used for the overflow counter, and another bit is used for the fuel counter, and the last bit is used for just safety reasons. I'm now here in the dissection part of the world, and this will also be in the world download, but I'll try to explain my best of exactly how all this works. So firstly, let's talk about the distributor, and how this works is that firstly, when the boxes are inputted, when items are inputted here, it will turn on the clock at the end to power these instant rail lines so that the dropper line will fire every so often. This will basically send the item across instantaneously, but it is stopped by these blocks over here, as these comparators, when these blocks are in the down position, will power these droppers and stop the item from traveling past the hopper. So what will happen is, instead of the item going past here, it will go into the hopper and out. And once it does go through the hopper, this comparator will deactivate this, which will basically allow the item to go to the next module. You can see this if I input in some items here. After all of these have been raised, this slime column at the end is released, which means that this reset rail line gets triggered, and that will reset all of these back to the down position. If I disable a single module here, or multiple modules, I can disable these at the ends, then it will just skip over the modules and still work properly without overflowing at the ends. And that is quite nice, as it allows me to disable furnace modules at a whim. The fuel distribution system is the exact opposite of the input distribution system, in the sense that instead of trying to distribute the inputs over as many modules as it can, this tries to only input fuels boxes to the modules where it needs them. And that is achieved through a call-based sort of system. And how it works is, if a furnace module needs more fuel, it will activate this sort of circuit line, and that will start the clocks and allow the boxes to travel here until the module disables this again. Now this is pretty slow. It's a pretty slow distribution system because it really doesn't need to be that fast. But it also makes things simple because I can use this observer line here as the main clock instead of using some other external system. Now let's talk about the actual furnaces themselves. The furnace modules are quite compact. They are modular, so you can have multiple if you want. I chose 9 because 9 is a good number. Basically everything in the game is divisible by 9, like in terms of inventories. Like these barrels, they have 27 slots, and so we have 9 by 3 by 9, so it's nice. It's a nice number to work with. Each of these modules have 144 furnaces in them, and they process a box each. If you only input in one box, you're only going to be using 144 furnaces at a time. Can move on to the cart loader, and this is a quite nice and compact system, as it does quite a lot. Firstly, it detects whether or not there's items to be processed, and if there are, it will turn on this contraption, and that will place a box in this place here, and carts will begin to unload it. The challenge, though, is breaking the box once the box is empty, even though the cart is still here. Because if the cart is still here, the box item entity will be sucked up by the cart and not by the hopper, and then the cart could go over the furnaces, and the box will get stuck in the furnace and ruin everything. So we don't want that, so I have to use some sort of cart locking system here to make sure that the cart only stays unlocked when it's supposed to suck items. I can demonstrate this as well. Put in a box. See, only 144 items were deposited in that hopper. This was done through perfect timing to make it so that it's only under the box for 144 game ticks. Now, one thing that I should probably mention is that the carts are actually locked again when they leave. You can see as the piston retracts, the rail pulses, and that's a nice feature and also a necessary one, so that the cart doesn't pick up any accidental items or random items along its way from other carts, let's say the fuel carts, as it passes by. So even if I throw some random item in here, it'll just go through without being sucked up by these carts because they're all locked. It also reduces the lag. Moving on to the loading part of the system. This loader will take 3 dropper inputs and loads them at 6 times hopper speed into this shulker box. And this loader is also a mix loader, so you can have multiple item types loading at the same time. Unlike other traditional mix loaders, though, this mix loader will break if any of the input lines are backed up. And that's because I have a triple redundancy system here with 3 comparator reads, 1, 2, and 3 here, that watch the input droppers, all the input droppers going into the shulker box for any overflow. When that happens, it will activate the braking mechanism. I can demonstrate that right now. This. Here. Now, I can get away with having just a comparator read instead of locking this system at the top so that this can reset, because 6 times hopper speed is still too fast for 144 furnaces, meaning 144 furnaces will smelt their items slower, then this loader can process them. So over time, these compares will reset, regardless of what I do. When this is disabled, which happens when the module is turned off, the box will automatically be broken again, and the results sent to the output. This over here is the fuel system, and this is probably the most complicated part of the module. I need to not only send one box of fuel every 12 runs for blaze rods at least. I also need to make sure that the fuel cart is all stocked up and that the hopper locking mechanism is disabled. And this is done with this strange little hidden dropper counter thing. And this will contain exactly the amount of items that a single fuel item that you're using can smelt. In their case, the blaze rod can smelt 12 items, so I have 12 scaffolding here. Once this dropper counter finishes, it will activate the refueling system and send the fuel cart along its way. Now I can show you that if I manually activate it, it also starts when it also sends the fuel cart when the module first starts up. Now, while with the loading system, I use curved rails. With the refueling system, I decided not to use curved rails because it's extra work, and also it's just not necessary. Refueling only happens once every 12 times, so I don't need to worry about its speed as much as with the input. One thing to note about the system is that the fuel elevator is actually located here. So the cart will go back up through this end, which was quite difficult to do because right here is where the loader mechanism lies. So it actually goes right through the middle of the loader mechanism. And yeah, it is pretty messy. But it works, so we'll just go with that for now. Now that concludes the explanation part of this video. Thank you for watching, everyone. But if you would like to continue to stick around, I would like to discuss on a few points regarding the serviceability of this furnace array, as well as its practicalities, of course. A lot of people have asked me, why go to such great lengths to build such a massive furnace array? I mean, 5,184 furnaces and 1.86 million items per hour ought to be too much for anybody to handle, right? And that is true if you're playing alone on a single player world, but it's not really true if you are playing in a server. Here in the Mechanists Technical Server, which I am here right now, the survival server, we regularly use lots and lots and lots and lots of glass. And for example, I'll show you what I mean. Right here, this floor, and where the furnace array is located, this perimeter is all floored with glass, black stained glass that is. And this perimeter is quite large. It's the largest perimeter we have on our server. And I don't think you can even see the entire perimeter with view distance. It literally covers all of our spawn chunks and so much more. Flooring all this has costed us several million items of glass, and it would have been impossible without the help of a major furnace array. Over here, you can see this was our old furnace array. This is the 4032 furnace array I talked about, also designed by me and Alu. And this furnace array, while it was useful for us at a time, it also ran into several issues. One of which was that, firstly, it was pretty laggy, and secondly, it got broken pretty easily. And that's more of a sad byproduct of all furnace arrays that are this massive, which is that if something goes wrong and something breaks, you're pretty much done for, as it's impossible to make sure that all the inventories are proper without checking through every single one of them. So, as a result, he decided to adopt a different strategy when creating the new furnace array. The plan for this furnace array was that by having 4 cores, like with our previous 4032 furnace array, we'll be able to continue to operate even if some of the cores break. It's a part of a redundancy strategy. Not only that, these cores are pretty much kind of easy to build for us at least. And so if something goes wrong, once we identify the problem, we can fix it by blowing up this entire core or the core with TNT and rebuilding it from scratch. Having said that, that is the vanilla method. But there is now another option. And it's with the help of some modding skills that I have. And with that, I've created an additional feature to my Tweakaroo fork called Tweak Fork. It's called Container Scanner, and it basically automates the job of searching through all the containers, and it's pretty simple to use as well. All you have to do is turn on the scanner and just fly through the furnace array, like so, until all of them are scanned, and then you'll be able to see the items inside the furnaces. Moreover, if you want to, you can also render counts to show you which furnaces are actually broken. In normal cases, the furnace should only have one item type in it, so you can even filter them by item type. And so that will make sure that only the worked furnaces are highlighted with the labels. Now, this tool is very useful not just for furnace arrays, but for debugging storage tech as well. If, let's say, your main storage got borked, you might be able to figure out which items got misplaced by using this container scanner utility. Having said that, this utility is a not vanilla modded thing, and so if you want to avoid using such mods, you are more than welcome to use our current strategy of blowing up the furnace array and rebuilding it from scratch every time it's broken. Now that is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. I will be posting this world download in the description below. I hope you also check out the Mechanics Discord and also some of the other videos I have on my channel. Oh, and one more thing. For those of you who don't want to be building such a massive furnace array, I have also included this smaller double hopper speed 50 furnace dustless, entityless, all that shazazz furnace array design here. This over here is not box based, it's item based, but it should suffice for single player worlds. I'll demonstrate how to use it right now. All you have to do is first load fuel here at the top, and then put in the things you want to smelt in the input. That's it. It will do the rest automatically. You can connect this to a chunk loader if you want by taking the OR operation of these two piston signals here to determine when to keep this area loaded. Since it is entityless, we can load it with just redstone ticking chunks, no need to have it be entity ticking. And so you can put it on the edges of your storage system quite nicely. As you can see, it's already done. Now that's all I have for you today, for real this time. Thank you, and till next time, stay cool.